Hello, everybody. Welcome to this supposedly monthly stream that I do at the end of every month where this is Subscriber Appreciation Day, where I try to use my small bubble of clout on the internet to grab awesome people, bring them here and let you guys have a good conversation. And oftentimes these things end up really, really fun. And I am so happy to welcome Mia Mulder, otherwise known as @PotatoPolitics on Twitter. Please introduce yourself to anyone who hasn't heard of you before.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mia Mulder. I am a Swedish political YouTuber who talks sometimes about history, but also sometimes about like transgender issues and history and politics in general. And yeah, I exist on Twitter as Potato Politics because that's a handle that worked, and it's easy to remember, but it's also very hard to brand.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is there a story?
The story is that I was looking at like usernames to use. This was long before I was like wanted to get into politics or like being on YouTube, right? And I just decided that like I like potatoes. And I like politics, so potato politics.
Well, there you
go. Yeah, so now I'm called Potato Politics.
And I found out about you through, I think, probably the way that a bunch of people in the last month or two found out about you. Oh, hi,
Kitty.
There's a couple of them. They'll show up every once in a while. Yeah, so I found out about you when I was watching a certain person play Donkey Kong, and you wandered into the stream.
Yeah, I appeared in the H-Bomber Guy Mermaid Donkey Kong nightmare stream, and I got a big bump in viewership then. I got a big bump before that too because I made a video on anti-intellectualism, so I got like a big bump there, going from like 300 subscribers to like.
You're about 7,000 now.
Well, yeah, I'm about 7,000 now, which is fun. I went from like a couple of dozen subscribers up to over 1,000, and then I went on the H-Bomb stream and I got like another big bump.
Nice.
And it was like it was a nice kickstart to my channel because I had also like recently come back from a healthcare hiatus, and and then the H-Bomb stream happened, and I was like, oh well, a lot of my friends are up there. Maybe I can join the stream potentially. And then famous people started rolling in, and I was like, I'm never gonna be invited here. That's never gonna happen. But then Mia Gang came up and kept screaming for me, and then I appeared and got to have a history lesson about Sweden and Vikings and shit. For 25,000 people, and that also gave me a big bump.
That's awesome. That's a great way to get. I love that Harry did that. I loved everything about that whole weekend.
Oh yeah, but it was nice to just like it was nice partially because Mermaid got funded, but also it was fun because a lot of people got to have a platform in a good way. Including me. So now I'm famous. How do you like that, Harry? I'm coming for you, Harry.
Oh boy. One day you will. Who's going to rule the bread tubes of Europe and
the bread tubes of Europe? Well, I mean,
we'll be in Europe soon. So
well, yeah, if Brexit happens, then there won't be as many people left in Europe, will there?
No.
It's going to be... Dan Arrow still has me beat, though, unfortunately.
And when it comes to parts of Europe that get like a comprehensive English education at a young age, there's like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Ireland. So, and probably Scotland, let's be honest. Depending upon how you define English, but that's a different question.
That's fair. Well, I can always talk in the genuine Swedish accent that all Swedish people talk English in. Really, this is how I was taught to speak English. But when I actually talked to actual English people who spoke English, I realized that wasn't probably the best dialect.
But I do think that it's Norway, it's Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. They get like, you guys start like English at like kindergarten, don't you?
Yeah. Well, maybe kindergarten. I'm not sure, but I definitely like first year of like basic school. We do like basic English. We do it in, like in connection with Swedish. So we learn Swedish grammar and English grammar at the same time. But because we live in Sweden and because everyone speaks Swedish, we learn Swedish better anyway. But just in the education system, we learn Swedish and English equally.
Cool. All right. So someone asked if I was going to be reading the chat, and the answer is yes. So the point of this exercise, once we get warmed up here, is to take yours questions, and Mia's going to answer them to the best of her ability,
Yes.
and she'll be scored on a rank of 1 to 100 based on how accurate or funny the answer is.
This is great.
I don't know. I'm just making this up on the spot right now, but it's just...
No, I'm here for it. Let's do it. I'm gonna have the best points.
All right. Well, and so questions that are directed to me, I'm going to direct to you first, because I stream on this thing all the time, so you guys can get me anytime. You can only get Mia Mulder every once in a blue moon.
That's true.
So, someone with the curious name Canadian Führer Emperor Jackson wants to know if you're asked if I was in support of Brexit. But let's start with you and talk. We already talked about Brexit a bit, so let's air it out.
I think Brexit is a bad idea as it is happening. I think there is Euroscepticism that is understandable and that is like valid and something that you can do about it. And I think that there are alternatives to the European Union that are better than the European Union, because the European Union currently is it's pretty confused and combobulated and just overblowed and overbloated as an institution. But I think that despite all its flaws, it's kind of good. Like, it's pretty good. Like, when we talk about European history, it's like we've spent ever since like 1945. It's been fairly okay here, and a large part of that has to be attributed to the European Union and like similar like economic and political partnerships in Europe. And
you should have like a sign when you fly into the continent that just has like this many days since large continental war.
Yeah, like this many years since World War.
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, we're doing pretty good when it comes to like to peace here. But so I think Brexit is a bad idea, because I think in the cost benefit analysis of Brexit, I think Brexit has a lot more negative implications in it than positive ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion. But then again, I live in Sweden, and we have like a bunch of exceptions from EU regulations and EU things. We don't even have the euro, so we have a pretty similar relationship with the EU that the UK has, and I think part of that is also because we're also separated by a bit of water, unless you count the Finnish border, which no one does.
Oh man, yeah, I remember the whole cultural distinction that a tiny bit of water makes. It just like, I guess like as someone who lives in like such a weird who lives in a country that is almost the size of Russia and has like like I'm always just so blown away by like how in Europe, because the feuds are so old and the history is so old, that like people have like death grudges against people who live like what to us would be like 2 cities over.
Yeah, I mean, Europe is just a continent made of peninsulas and islands, and which makes it historically it has this like weird thing where it's like easy to do warfare, but it's hard to conquer anything, which means that you get like a bunch of different like peoples who are really good at fighting people but are really bad at controlling other people, which is why it's a hodgepodge of different nations and cultures and languages, and we're all really good at warfare. and have a lot of, like, cultural differences between us.
Mm-hmm. On the Brexit angle, how is, I mean, I'm not, you're gonna, I don't want you to speak for all of Europe, but like, how is everybody else? What is like the general European concept of like what the Brits are doing?
So as official speaker of Europe, of all of continental Europe and the European Union, I think, like, there's an idea that Brexit is just, it's just the Brits doing what they do. Like, they don't want to be part of Europe. They don't want to be part of the European project, so to say. And it's not something that is very new. Like, Brexit is big news, right? And it's really big news when it comes to, like, political history and in the UK and partly even like in America. But like in Europe, people are like, okay, well, fuck it, who cares? Like, this is what the UK always does, and we're just kind of used to it, I think. Especially after 2 years of it. Now we're just all tired of it. Now we just want them to stop and just like, do whatever you want, just leave, just do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had in the mid 90s, we had a situation that was kind of like this. And I made a video when Brexit happened that kind of outlined it. So 1995, I don't know if you know, but Canada has a nation within the country that occasionally grumbles about leaving.
Yeah.
And
I've heard about it. I don't know enough about it.
Basically, it's the province of Quebec, the French Canadians in there.
Yeah, I figured.
So
historically always a bit of a bother in Canada, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. As somebody who is of both of those worlds, I can say that I'm allowed to criticize them, because like I'm like the person who's like, yeah, Quebec does a whole bunch of really dumb racist shit, and then if somebody here says even the slightest bad thing about Quebec, I'll be like, don't you fucking talk about my own.
Don't you dare bad talk Quebec.
Yeah, exactly. But in 95, they were leaving, and a prominent political theorist was like, all right, this can go down one of two ways. Either everyone's going to make a lot of concessions to make it easy, just to get it over with as fast as possible, or it's going to get so bogged down and full of like issues and dumb things because we're so integrated that by the time we actually got to the point where we're like, sawing off the province, that things would get like everyone would be so sick of this thing that they would do another referendum that would fail.
Yeah.
And it's like, this sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also like if the UK does have a second referendum when it comes to like Brexit, because there's been talks about having a second referendum on it, right? Mm-hmm. That would be like typical EU things, right? Because the EU has a history of like a country doesn't want to do a thing, so they have a referendum on it, and they don't want to do a thing, and the EU is like, okay, well, and it's awful and bothersome for a couple of years, and then they have a second one, and then maybe it passes, and if it doesn't, then it's bothersome and awful, and then they have another one, and then it passes, and everything is fine. So the EU gets its will anyway. After a while, I don't think it's done by malice either. I think it's just done by the huge bureaucracy of the EU states, so to say.
Yeah, they make it such a pain in the ass to do anything that goes against their will that they just kind of give up at some point.
Yeah, which sucks. But at some point, like that is how most political systems are built.
Mm-hmm. That was the thing that I was listening to an interview with a Eurosceptic guy who lived in Britain and who was making the case that, oh, look, if you notice that Brexit's happening, the British are leaving, and then as soon as the British leave, all of the political capital that the Conservatives are using to do it is going to fall apart, and the British are going to collapse, and then Jeremy Corbyn will become prime minister, and you'll have that like socialist Brexit that everyone wanted, just like.
Well, I mean, there are socialist versions of like leaving the EU, right? And there are a lot of like there are a lot of ways to there are like non-nationalist left-wing arguments for leaving the EU. I just don't think they hold up, because like there are benefits to leaving the EU, I think, from a left-wing perspective, but the benefits of staying is better, kind of, right? Like the EU isn't perfect, but all of the good things that the EU does are kind of invisible. Like there are farming subsidies and research subsidies and information exchange and things like that. And I think those things are worth it, kind of.
Mhm.
And the argument is like, oh, well, why can't we just do that without having to be part of the EU? And like, okay, well, then we need another network in order to do that, and then we just have the EU too.
Like, not EU.
Like, yeah.
And also, like, the thing that I was always talking about, like, young people in the UK are so screwed by this. Like, they had so many opportunities with the free movement and stuff like that. That I know.
Yeah. No, travel throughout all of Europe is good, and now they won't. Maybe potentially.
My hidden theory is that Ireland is going to make mad bank off this.
Oh yeah.
English is the language of business, and Ireland is now the last English country in the European Union.
Well, English speaking. Let's be
English
clear.
English speaking.
Yeah, that's an important distinction when it comes there.
Yeah, and so so as that they will have business advantages, but also they're probably gonna have to work out some sort of exception deal for their border with Britain, which makes me think that stuff going through Ireland into the UK might be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to speculate too much because anything is possible currently. But I think Brexit in general is just bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. You guys, it's going to be a mess one way or another.
Oh yeah, it's already been a mess.
Yeah, there's already people who are talking like way back in the day about how like all the ships, even just the ships that come in, right? They just come in and they just stop, and it's easy. But like adding customs to these ports is going to like cause these like months-long backups of just like the normal shit that like British people buy and sell.
Yeah, because even if you add like just a second, like a 6-second check per ship or something like that, that just adds too much because the system isn't built to do that. Mm-hmm. The system is built on free flow, and if you interrupt that, it's going to take months or even years to reformat that.
Yeah. All right. Someone wanted to know, this is only bro 555, is there a Swedish Nazbol party?
Nazbol, like National Bolshevik?
Yeah, a thing that I found out existed. First of all,
it's a wild ride of ideology.
I was trying to think like, okay, first of all, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, I can understand like this like weird Soviet revanchist thinking. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But then somebody told me it was a joke. And then I found out it wasn't. And now I'm like, I don't understand. I'm not internet enough for this.
Yeah, Sweden does not have a national party. I don't think we will ever have one because, as you say, it's like it's mostly built on like Soviet revanchism thinking, whereas like this Russian nationalism based in like old time Soviet thinking. But Sweden never had that, so. For all the talk of Sweden being a communist hellscape, we were not part of the Soviet Union.
I do love that, like, because Sweden has like some common sense stuff around like school and healthcare, that the concept around the world is that it's like a socialist hellscape.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's like
they
have like three or four.
We don't really live in a socialist dictatorship, hellscape, apocalyptic nightmare. It's pretty chill, actually. Like when people say that like, oh, we shouldn't like praise Sweden as this like socialist utopia thing, and we shouldn't, obviously, because Sweden has issues, as all countries do. But like in general, like it's pretty okay here. Like it's pretty decent. Like I got to go to university for free. They gave me money to go to university. I can have healthcare for free. Well, subsidized, but things like that. Welfare is easy to get. Like it's pretty nice. It's pretty decent here. But it's not perfect. But it's sometimes I hear like horror stories about people in America not affording insulin and having to like refinance homes and shit in order to like afford food. And it's like, okay, that's concerning.
Mm-hmm. So like scary music, chill people.
Scary music, yeah. There's a lot of scary music here. We do love death metal for some reason. I don't know why though. All of Sweden is full of like goth emo culture not just in music, like all of our movies are pretty depressing. All of our TV shows are like thriller crime dramas. Yeah, it's pretty. Our most successful book export was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is dark. This is how we do it. That's just how we do it here. It's dark.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before the stream started, and you were saying that like Swedish comedy is like political thriller or political intrigue and like
political intrigue or like laced. There's this famous like it's a comedy like feel good movie about it's about like a gay couple who have like they have adoption issues because of homophobia. They have deep relationship issues in their marriage. The adoption, there's something wrong with the adoption, and it leads to the marriage splitting up. They finally adopt a kid, but the kid has like been sexually abused. And it's like, this is a comedy movie. This is a comedy movie.
Somebody throw a pie.
Why are we talking about like dark sexual issues and like homophobia and like extreme violent prejudice in this comedy movie? That's Sweden for you, basically.
Somebody suspected it's a weather, but then I come from a country that is almost as dreary as Sweden, and if not more so, and yet it's our culture is known for being rather just like America, but a little bit more clever.
I think it's because we're kind of up north, so half of the year we don't have the sun. We just don't have the sun.
So it's where all the vampires are hiding.
Yeah. I think that kind of messes you up after a while, because it's just dark. It's literally as dark constantly. But now we are past the spring equinox, so now we are going to have the sun forever, and it's never gonna set.
Oh, so it's like that far north. Like you guys get like several days of daylight, or
no? It's not that bad. Up north, the sun literally never sets, but here. The sun does set because I'm close to Stockholm. I'm a bit north of Stockholm, but it's not that far north. So the sun does set, but it only sets like a little bit. So it's like it's constantly like sunset where the sun has just peaked under the horizon, but the sky is like still orange, and it never stops being orange. It never gets like properly dark. It's always like, oh, cool. Nighttime is orange now.
It's orange time. Oh man, that it gets like that. Anyway. It gets like that in some places here, but you have to go really, really far north where it's like -50 for like 6 months of the year and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, but that's because you have one giant cohesive landmass. We have lakes that like keep the climate mild.
Oh yes. Yeah, and someone else I think sent point out, isn't the most popular book in Sweden the IKEA catalog?
Oh, it is. I love IKEA. Fuck, I love IKEA. Shit, I should go to IKEA tomorrow.
It's a
joke, but it's a joke, but like I fucking love IKEA.
You want to drop $600, buy 50 things and meatballs. It's all in.
Oh, yeah.
All right, some random geek wants to know, how would Mia describe Sweden's politics? Here's the thing, is like I have so many people in my audience who have been asking me about Sweden questions for literally years, and now I'm like, I got my first Swede on here, so
yes,
prepare yourself for.
Oh, that's fine. Ask me all the questions. I will answer all your wants. Anyway, Swedish politics is complicated, kind of. We have like 8 political parties, maybe 9. I keep losing track about who is relevant, and. Basically, we have the Social Democratic Party, which is the largest party in Swedish history. They basically had a dictatorial control over Sweden for like 60 years because they just kept winning elections by themselves. Like they kept getting over 50% despite not being a 2-party system, which is wild. But then they stopped doing that, so now they're in a coalition with the Environmental Party and like counting on support from the Left Party, which is the former Communist Party. Like they're not in a coalition with them, but they expect their votes in parliament. And then we have the conservative/liberal coalition that is in opposition. That has like, yeah, it's it's hard to like define what they are, because they have like conservative leanings, they have like conservative religious leanings, but they're also like liberal in the sense of like market liberal, but also in the sense of like maybe farmers should be the priority of the economy. And it's like it's a very split direction of opposition parties, but that's because they're an opposition coalition thing that just they basically just formed to try to take down the Social Democrats, because the Social Democrats alone could take down the rest of Swedish politics, because they just dominated everything.
Oh.
But then, in the last couple of elections, the left coalition has gotten around 40% or something, but the right coalition has also gotten around 40% or something, and the remaining 20-something% has gone to the Swedish Democrats. And they are not in a coalition with anyone, and the Swedish Democrats are literally like a continuation of a Nazi-founded party. I'm not even. This is not hyperbole. This is not like me saying too much. They were literally founded by a former SS officer.
Oh, Jesus.
That's not even a joke.
In Sweden, your Nazis aren't neo. They're just flat out old Nazis.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's just how it goes in Europe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like our Nazis are like OG Nazis. But they kind of rebranded over the years, over and over. And they never really got success until like a decade ago. And they got like this meteoric rise because of the migration crisis. And they got kind of popular from that, but they never got anywhere. So now they kind of stagnated at around 20%.
Yeah.
But that also means that the rest of Swedish politics have been like in a constitutional lock. So in the last election that we had last year, it took a long time before we could form a government.
I remember that. They were like, this is taking a lot. Okay. Because like we do parliament too. And this is like why I'm always so fascinated. Because like one of the things that happened here is that they managed to make, so this is a parliamentary system with 5 parties, or no, now I think we're up to like 6 or 7 with seats. And yet they've made coalition government a dirty word, that like no one wants to do a coalition. And so we had weird. Yeah, we had like 5 years where we had no, like the functioning government that was just the biggest group party with no, like less than 50% of seats. So that means that I voted in about 6 elections by the time I was 21.
Oh no. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have a government now anyway. It's basically the opposition coalition has collapsed. The liberal part of the liberal conservative coalition has kind of jumped and joined the Social Democrats. So now we have a Social Democrat / liberal government that counts on support from the former Communist Party. But that's called the Left Party. But the Left Party has like, don't fuck with like market reform, don't fuck with labor laws, and you will have support. But if you start like messing with labor laws, this government is over. It's like, okay, tense, but it's working. We have a government.
Are they like your bulwark against neoliberalism or anything like that, or
the Left Party?
Yeah.
Kind of. Like they get around 10% in the elections. They're somewhat popular. They're really popular with like young people. Also, their party leader goes to anime conventions. And that helps.
Knows his audience or her audience.
Oh, definitely, 100%. He's also really popular on Instagram because he is like during the election, a lot of people had a lot of anxiety, and all the party leaders on Instagram and like a lot of social media, they would be like, vote for party, vote for this. This is a policy document, yada yada yada. And the Left Party like official channels, they would do all that, right? But his own personal Instagram was like, look at my buns. I baked some buns. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. Like everything's going to be okay. And everyone just like, yay. You're so nice. You're so kind.
Oh, that's awesome. I would love to have a politician that I feel happy about. That'd be great.
He's pretty good. He's currently in election oversight committee in Turkey to see that Turkey has fair elections, which he does not believe that they will have. But That's another question.
Yeah, that's a all right. And we're getting a lot of them. All right.
Yeah, sorry that I'm ranting so much. It's
No, it's good. It's good. That's all right. Christos Nicolau says, I have a Swedish history question for Mia. Do you know anything about the wage earner funds that the Social Democrats tried to do in the 1980s?
The wage earner funds. Yeah, I have to translate it. Löntagarfonder. Yeah, it's so there was this idea that workers would basically just pool the resources that they had in different companies, and they just buy the company, and then split the profits between themselves. So it was this idea that the workers would own the means of production by just buying it. And like outside of like party, like the Social Democrats, they were really influential on this, because the Social Democrats and the Swedish unions are like very one and the same. The Social Democrats are just the political wing of the largest workers' union in Sweden. So it's not like specifically this political idea, but it was like this idea that workers would just buy up their own thing, their own workplaces, basically. But then some regulations changed and everything changed. I don't know enough about it to like comment too much about it, but like some regulations changed, and then companies got like too much power to sustain themselves outside of that, and the wage earner funds are not really as relevant anymore. There are but there were like some companies I remember that were basically worker owned. So there were like some grocery stores where like they were owned by like socialist wage earner funds, and like I'm too young for this, but I remember like my mom saying like, you only shop at this shop because you don't shop at the capitalist shop, you go shop at the socialist shop in order to support the workers. It's like, awesome. Okay. Well,
I love that that's like just a thing, like that those instincts exist.
Yes.
Unless your mom is radical.
That still exists too in me, because I grew up with that, even though it doesn't matter anymore really. But that still matters to me, because I live next to a shop that is not workers owned, but I don't have a worker owned. It doesn't matter anymore, obviously, but like the brand anyway. They don't exist close to where I live, so a part of me just stings a little bit when I go shop at my local grocery store, because it's not a worker owned.
Yeah, we have a province that did something a little bit like that. So there's a province in the middle of nowhere that was considered until the like 1890s to be inhospitable wasteland.
Oh,
until the Americans started settling out west, and then they were like, all of a sudden we need to settle here, or else the Americans will take this inhospitable wasteland from us.
Yeah, we need Colombia.
Yeah, so that's Saskatchewan. And the weird thing about that province, except for it being a rectangle, is that it has roughly the weather of Ukraine in its furthest south, and it grows wheat, and that was its only industry for a good chunk of its history. I think it has potash and oil now, but they had a bunch of policies that they're the only place I could say is like socially conservative, fiscally communist. They set up a government organization that all of the farmers sell their wheat to, and they collect it all together and sell it on the global market.
Perfect. I love when people just do that. They just create their own thing.
Yeah, and then they had they have a set of like convenience stores and grocery stores, or not grocery stores, but like gas stations and stuff. Yeah. That is a co-op. That is a province-wide. It is the only, I think there might be another ones now, but it was like the province-wide thing. The internet, telephone, all done by a single. Yep.
Yeah, that one co-op.
Well, it's not that co-op, but it's another government-run corporation, and it's just like this province, but like nobody knows, because like it's considered this like really like backwards province and nobody knows about, but like because it only has 1 million people in the whole place. It's like you could fit Sweden in this province and it has 1 million people in it, and yet it has all these like insane like things you would never think to see in like a North American country. It's great.
That's amazing.
They've
That's so cool.
Yeah, they since neoliberalized, and they partially privatized that wheat board that bought all the wheat and like all that stuff. But
it has to be incredibly sparsely populated.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because Sweden is very sparsely populated, and it's one of the we still have like 10 million. So that, and if it's larger than Sweden and has a tenth of the population,
it's so.
Is there like one city and then just wasteland?
There's
just wheat fields.
1.5 cities.
1.5.
There's Regina, the capital, that has about 100,000 people, and then they have another city called Moose Jaw that has slightly less than that, and then pretty much the rest of the provinces. It is suspected because of how sparsely populated it is by like settlers, that it's going to be it's set to, because like the population's getting old because everyone who grows up there moves away, that it's going to be the first province to be majority. That's not a federal territory in the Arctic. It's going to be majority indigenous, of the indigenous people who live in the Americas by next year. Oh, Saskatoon! I forgot about Saskatoon.
Oh, that's
which is
cool.
Another one of the towns there. It also has that's also the name of a berry that seems to only grow in that province.
Very local berry.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I like when like indigenous populations get back control. But although maybe they don't get back control, maybe they get back like proportional amount of people. But I hope Canada is like. I know Canada isn't really the best, kindest people to its indigenous population.
No, we are absolutely horrible.
Yeah. Although Sweden isn't much better, at least in the north part where the area that we conquered.
Oh my, is this like the Laplanders or something?
Yeah. Well, it's the Sami people. Laplander is it's a bit of an outdated term. Not a lot of people know that. So
my Swedish geography comes from Crusader kings, so that makes sense.
That's fair. Yeah, but like the most northern part of Sweden, we just decided. Yeah, the Scandinavian countries just decided that we should own that because it has minerals in it, and so we took it. And ever since, we've just pretended that Sweden just belongs like that, and not really recognized that it is basically like colonialism in Europe.
If they're named the Sami people, does that mean that they're similar to like Finns? Like, are they like kind of?
Not. I think they're more similar to Finns than they are to a lot. They are a lot more similar to Finns than Swedes, but I don't think so. I think they're their own thing. I think they're more connected to like the indigenous population of like Siberia and Russia and that area. Okay. The Finns are connected to I think they're connected to the Hungarians or Ukrainians. I don't remember which one. Some of them, anyway.
Okay. And someone's like, is Moose Jaw a city? Why is it not the capital of Canada? It is a city. It during Prohibition, it was a like #1 place for smuggling booze into the United States. And I went there once and did their mafia tour because they have like a little mafia tour based on that. And apparently, what's his name? A famous gangster from Prohibition, freaking Scarface. Oh man, what's his name is escaping me right now. It's like the most famous like gangster in history. Al Capone. Yeah, Al Capone apparently went there for dental work once. And that was like one of the biggest stories they had.
God bless.
Yeah. All right. This is from Janari Asha. Janari-Asha. Okay, question. What do you think the connection is between Booism and then in brackets Werabooism, Kaiserbooism? That's a new one.
I know this.
With proto-nationalistic deification of certain authoritarian nations. So first of all, Werabooism and Kaiserboo. I need like 6 different explanations to get this.
Do you want me to explain? Because I am intimately familiar with this.
Hang on.
I need a hat for this.
Will I hate myself for knowing this information?
Probably not. It's So Wehraboo is where someone basically like thinks of the German Wehrmacht as like an anime.
Okay.
They view the First and Second World, well, the Second World War specifically, if they're Wehraboo, as like an anime. That's literally the easy thing. So they do the Nazi cosplay and they do the thing, but they don't think about the politics. It's just like it's just memes. It's just like it looks cool, and the tanks look cool, and they do these like fantasy things about like how the world would have looked like if the Nazis won, for example. And it's like, okay, anime.
Weird, but okay.
Kaiserboos are the same thing, but for like Imperial Germany, where they
I saw you
like.
Is that
so like
the pickle video? Yeah.
So there's this idea that that if the German Empire won the First World War, for example, then everything would be a lot better, and the world will be a lot better, and the Kaiser did nothing wrong, and the German Empire is a lot better, and yada 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 yada. There's this idea, right? And it's kind of the memification of authoritarian figures in a way that's like concerning. Whereas like you don't think about the actual human implications of what the thing is. It's like it just looks cool. Like you listen to a Prussian march, it sounds cool. Prussian uniforms are kind of cool. You like the hat. It would be cool if those things were like more prevalent, and the idea is that they wouldn't be more prevalent if they had won. But that kind of ignores what history means and like how like what happens over time, and also how awful both of those institutions were. I will, however, say that a lot of people who criticize the Kaiserboos specifically say that like, oh well, they say that the German Empire wasn't the bad guy in World War I. Well, clearly, the Germans were the bad guy in World War I. They say, which ignores the fact that no one was a good guy in World War I. Everyone in World War I was a bad guy. All the factions were bad. There was not a bad side. They were all bad. It was the Second World War. I can that you can say that there was a bad side. There was the Nazis. That's the bad side. That was an easy choice. World War One. It's more complicated because everyone is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's just my.
Oh yeah. That
idea.
The controversial opinion that that Germany was bad in World War II is that's now
a controversial opinion that Nazis are bad.
Yeah. Not a thing I thought I'd have to say. But.
There's a comment. There's a comment here. It's like it's a map and aesthetics of old Germany, basically, and they like the aesthetics of like old German culture and old German like militarism. That kind of looks cool, and I think a lot of people can understand that, because if you listen to a Prussian marching song, you feel that you are like the king of the universe. And you would like an army walking outside your bedroom window with that music every day. But once you like step back from the initial like visual reaction from it, then it's like, oh, these are all awful ideas. I get the same thing when it's like with like Swedish, with the Swedish Empire, for example. Like it looks cool, it sounds cool, but when you think about what if Sweden had like maintained the Swedish Empire? And then you do cosplaying and you do a bunch of fan fiction, and you don't realize that what you're doing is you're just furthering nationalism, like nationalist agendas by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just fan fiction. It's not just memes. It's not just like a cool aesthetic, because visually to an outside observer, all you're doing is just spreading right-wing extremist nationalism.
It's never just memes.
It's never just memes.
I'm learning, and I got a little bit of this because when I started a Discord server, I guess there's like, because I think that some of this comes out in people who like the bless their Swedish hearts, the Paradox gaming community.
Yes, I know some of them.
and just like the kind of community that's built up around them. Like there's a whole thing about how the kind of history memes concept of looking at the past.
Yep.
And then I guess somebody there's a for one of the games, the World War II game, Hearts of Iron 4. I guess there's like a World War I, like basically what you're talking about with this Kaiserboo
Victoria 2.
Oh no, this is the Hearts of Iron 4. It's a mod where the Germans won World War. Yeah, and
that's Kaiser.
Yeah,
I play these games a lot.
I play a lot of them a lot, but not the World War II one. I can't get into it.
Yeah, it's I didn't like it either.
But Kaiserreich has like a community around it, and it leads to some super weird memes that are extremely authoritarian.
Yes.
And I'm like,
it's very concerning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like the memification of history, I think it's not a pure black and white issue, right? Because if you do it publicly, the memes become a political message. And when I say publicly, I mean like just showing another human person. It's like even in a small knit community, like, right? I think if you just do it for yourself only while being aware of the implications that you're doing, I think it's kind of fine, actually. Like if you want to fetishize the German Empire on your own, but you have like your own political opinion outside of that, fine. I don't think it matters really. But once you like don't do that, if you take that like internal like dirty secret or like shameful enjoyment thing and like make it into a core part of your political identity, that's when I think it's like, oh, this isn't, then it's as we say, then it's not memes anymore, then it's real, and that's all that it takes. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to actively like promote it as right-wing propaganda. As long as you just see it as anything more than just your own personal, like funny, shameful secret, then it has dangerous implications.
Oh boy, yeah.
That's just my opinion, though.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I was like, I will play the one that cannot possibly get a community of secret Nazis. So I play Stellaris primarily. And then it's like, oh no, they're all about genocide. Okay.
Oh yeah, because you can purge people. They love that.
Oh god.
And it's okay because they're not human. Oh god, what am I saying?
I mean, very technically they're not.
I mean, yeah, where technically they're not, but like that's a system that is abused.
Yeah. Oh god. So that's they.
Yeah.
Paradox has troubling implications in some of its mechanics. I want to actually make a game about it or a video about it in the future because when like EU4 has like they have like an option to like change the culture of a region, and I'm like, that's ethnic cleansing.
Like
this is an ethnic cleansing button.
Like, no, they just changed the culture. Don't think about how that would actually happen. Don't think about that. Don't think about it too much. It's just a button.
Yeah.
Culture conversion. I know it's so weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a whole video about Paradox, the games that I have serious issues with, but also love because I also am a history dork. So
yeah, I mean that's the shameful. I mean that's the price we have to pay, right, as history fans, where if we want to indulge in our historical fantasies, then all of the bad implications of history also emerge. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the curse of history, isn't it? You can't just have the good bits.
Yeah,
you always have to have the.
I would love to see like Paradox like do something where like, say if you played as Germany in Hearts of Iron, you have to deal with the fact that like, oh, you're committing genocide and you have to spend like significant amount of resources doing this horrible like crime against humanity.
Like if it actually like impacted your nation negatively, mm-hmm. like as it actually did, that would be interesting for me to watch, to play. But unfortunately, there are people who like mod that in, but they don't do it because they want to have like an actual conversation about the problematic ideas of playing as the Nazis without the implications of them doing anything bad, which is what Hearts of Iron 4 does. They add it in so that they can fulfill their own like sadistic fantasy of committing genocide, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Paradox is a merit issue, though. So,
although with Crusader Kings, I can fill out my sadistic fantasy of obviously the greatest mistake of human history, the greatest battle that went the wrong way that shouldn't have, which is the Battle of Tours. Obviously. Think about it. We'd probably be in Mars right now if it wasn't for the Battle of Tours. Just saying. Who had all the Greek philosophers and all the science? That's just all I'm saying at that point. Anyways, before because as soon as anybody tries to do any Googling to find out what I'm talking about, let's move on. I
agree with you though. It's a big error. The other side should have won.
Yes. Except that that's oh man. I have so many opinions about the Battle of Tours. It's basically the battle that kept Europe from becoming couple things, technologically advanced, lots more culture and history and lots more science, but also practicing Islam. So, it stopped the Islamic takeover of France.
A great mistake.
Great mistake. One that luckily us and George Soros and several other people are working to remedy.
Yes. Thank you, Soros, for your beautiful money that you shower upon me.
Yes, living it up. All right, Summer Random Geek question. According to my dad, Sweden is socialist because of high taxes. How wrong is he?
Well, I mean, Sweden isn't socialist in the classical meaning of the word socialist. Sweden is at best a social democracy, maybe. And Sweden is socialist in the common usage of the term anyway. In the sense that we have a lot of subsidized things. We have a lot of the government does a lot of things, which is what a lot of people think that socialism means. So from the original perspective that workers own the means of production and stuff like that doesn't happen in Sweden. But what does happen in Sweden is that we do have high taxes, and the government does pay for a lot of things, like for example, subsidized healthcare, education. Many social programs, stuff like that. In the past, they also did housing, government housing, and things like that. But Sweden does have high taxes, so socialists from the idea that we have a socialist economy. That's not true. We have a mixed economy, as they say. Or we used to. We've kind of drifted more and more capitalist over the last couple of decades. So the most socialist we've ever been is mixed, but that has been sustained by high taxes, which there's no getting around that really. Sweden has pretty high taxes.
Yeah.
But thanks to a very recent right-wing budget, I have to pay less tax on my Patreon money. So thanks for that. Sucks that you have to defund a bunch of things for it.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, I think it has to do with just this side of the Atlantic's concept of communism or socialism is when the government does things.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate. I think all of North America has this idea of communism or even socialism or anything leftist at all as the worst boogeyman available. Because I don't know. I know obviously I know what happened, but I don't know how it has sustained itself this long. Because I remember seeing a Twitter thread by someone talking about how evil socialism is, and if you're a socialist, just go to Sweden for you should drop these liberals in Sweden for a couple of weeks and see how long they last.
I'd love to.
Come over. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a bit expensive because of the taxes, but everything is fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you go to nice furniture, nice everything's blue with the beveled edges and all the signs, and what's it called? You can go to black metal, go to a black metal concert, take in one of those, and Enjoy.
Or visit one of our many publicly funded museums.
Yep. And then enjoy a nice, delicious lutefisk.
Oh God. Lutefisk. Oh, that's good shit.
Yeah, it's for the audience, that is fish that has been pickled with lye and buried underground until it basically turns into a mix of fish, jelly, and battery acid.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. That's not even the worst fish we have, because we also have surströmming. And surströmming cannot be translated into English.
That's a good sign.
It's the smelliest food in the world, potentially.
It's
the rotten. Yeah.
It's got laws, right?
Huh?
Like you can't open it in certain places and things like that.
You're not allowed to have it on planes.
Oh God.
And you should never open it indoors. At all indoors, you should not open it because the stink will never leave. The can is built in a very specific way so that when the fish ferments, because it's rotten fish, so that the can buckle and expand without exploding. But it should be mentioned that it sometimes still does explode.
Disturbing.
It's great. It's great with flatbread and potatoes and onion. We eat it every year for everything. I love it. Sweden. What a country I live in.
We found horrible things to do to fish. The other question, next question we got here is from Janari Yasha again. Was there a World War Zero, i.e. 7 Years War, 30 Years War?
The Napoleonic Wars.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's basically a world war, but we decided to not call it a world war. Instead, people called it the Great War. But then another Great War happened, so we started calling that the Great War. And then everyone fucking forgot about the Napoleonic Wars. Even history nerds today, they know about the Second World War, obviously. Everyone knows about the Second World War. Most people know about the First World War. But then, no one knows what happened before that. And it's I want to talk about the Confederation of the Rhine. But no one knows about the Confederation of the Rhine. Only I know about the Confederation of the Rhine.
Why is nobody talking about the Confederation of the Rhine?
Exactly. That's my meme.
Yeah.
People are already saying them European counterparts, and I feel like she can have mouthfeel. I should have the Confederation of the Rhine.
That's the difference between Europe and America. All right. Thessal with a bunch of Cyrillic letters after that. Sorry, friend. Mia, thoughts on Danish politician Thorvald Satuning? He's so epic. Do you know who this is? Thorvald Satuning. If you don't know, we can pass.
Thorvald Stauning. Is he alive, or is he from the 1900s, the 20s or something? If there's no detail, I think it's from the 20s, but I don't know who it is. But he's Danish, so I'm gonna assume that he's bad.
All right.
Probably not. He's probably pretty epic. I don't know enough about him though, unfortunately.
You're not from that part of Sweden that used to be Denmark?
I am not, because that is Sweden. It is ancestral Swedish land, and we will never cede the land to the Danish devil. We actually call the Danish devils a lot. Dansk jävlar.
He says that he's the leading leader in the beginning of the Danish campaign in Hearts of Iron 4.
Oh, I don't know enough about him. Sorry.
Okay. That's all right. All right. Argos Panoptes wants to know thoughts on the Icelandic sagas. Do Swedish people like them, or do they think that it's culturally? Also, why does Danish sound so weird? Okay.
Danish sounds so weird because it's a garbage language for garbage people. I'm joking. In all seriousness, I do love Danish people and I do love Denmark. But for the memes, I have to hate Denmark because for the memes, they hate me. Them's the rules. I also hate Norway. But I love Finland. Finland is my people, but Finland hates me, so that's fine. That's how it should be. That's how Nordic balance is maintained. Anyway, what was the question?
That's the Nordic model. So first one was thoughts on the Icelandic sagas.
The sagas, yeah, sorry. The sagas are we can say, like, Swedes don't really think about the sagas that much, but like there's this idea that the Icelandic sagas are this universal model for how all of Norse mythology, stretching not just in Iceland but like all throughout the Norse, like the Norse Germanic areas, including like Norway, Denmark, Sweden. And there's maybe some truth to that, because like I live in Uppsala, which is like one of the holy sites in Norse mythology. There have been human sacrifices probably within walking distance of where I currently sit, done by people who are probably my ancestors, which is pretty cool, but also pretty weird. But like the Icelandic sagas are also like not the best historical source, because they are written by people who were not Norse, who have a vested interest in portraying Norse mythology as something other than it was, and centuries after that they are dated. So I mean, there's a reason why Norse mythology, for example, that is mostly like derived from the Icelandic sagas, are very, very similar to Greek mythology. Now, I'm not saying that Norse mythology wasn't like that, but I mean, come on, we have one god, we have a god of wisdom, and we also have a god that throws lightning bolts. I mean, yeah. Maybe, but also like it might also have been in large part based on this Christian monk thinking about, oh, this is a religion based on like polytheism. I know of one other polytheist religion, the Greeks. So they probably had this god and this god and this god, and then they wrote that down and they based it on like some runes and some poetry. It's like, so there are aspects of the sagas that are probably true, but like most of it is actually probably bullshit, and like most Swedish people kind of view it that way.
Okay. And which of those sources is the origin of giants having infected wounds full of worms that then when they pulled them out turned into dwarves that lived in mountains?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
Like that, you know, that's probably one of the things that like might be unique to Norse mythology. But like, oh, the Norse creation myth is my favorite thing too, though, where someone killed a giant, and like the blood became the oceans, and the hair became the trees, and the nails became something, and everything became something from this giant that we all live upon. And I want to know, why is no one talking about giant Earth theory?
So giant Earth. So okay, I'm gonna get all these things down. So giant Earth theory and Coalition of the Rhine. These are your two crusades.
I have my own memes. I have a plant that I talk about, but I'm just making shit up as I go along. I'm sorry. I should be more serious for this.
This is a very serious conversation.
This is an incredibly serious conversation.
All right. Yeah. And the other question was, why is Danish so weird? So we already answered that one.
Danish sounds so weird because it's a hodgepodge of a bunch of languages. So Sweden, like the Nordic languages are Germanic type of language, but Danish is also like this combination like German, which is also influenced by the French. They don't admit it, but it is. But it's also influenced by the Dutch. They influenced each other. So like Sweden and Norway have been kind of like isolated a bit more than Denmark has been language-wise. Norway has been less isolated than Sweden has, because Norway was like under Danish rule for a very, very long time. While Sweden decided for like to rule Finland and to conquer the Baltic. And we have, like, Sweden is one of those countries that have never been military occupied ever by any military power.
Interesting.
It's incredibly rare. Like, most countries have been occupied, but Sweden has never been militarily occupied by another force. Like, in totality, we lost Finland, but like we Stockholm has never been militarily occupied. Royal marriages don't count. They don't. You don't conquer a nation by just marrying.
Excuse me. There is a entire family line of inbred cross-eyed monsters called the von Habsburgs that disagree with you.
Yeah, but I don't consider like the Kalmar Union as a military occupation of Sweden.
Yeah,
like that's another thing. But so the reason why Danish sounds so weird is because it's a hodgepodge of like all continental languages and also the Nordic languages smushed together in this awful monstrosity of a language.
That sounds very similar to how English happened.
Yeah, pretty much, except that the Danish children take longer to learn their parents' language than most other nations.
Oh, good.
Because the language is so weird.
Oh, God. All right. Nicholas Kristolau, why does no one count the Finnish border? I'm not sure what the story is here.
Because it's incredibly far up north.
Okay.
Swedish export over land goes over the bridge that we built with Denmark. Like there is export and import line. There is travel across the Finnish border, but it's incredibly far up north. It's incredibly sparsely populated. And if we're going to transport something, for example, between Russia and Sweden, for example, we're going to take a boat. Like we're not going to like travel north up and then down a bunch. We're just going to go over the bit of water.
Mm-hmm.
So it's technically connected by land to the continent, right? But if you ever want to go to continental Europe, no one is going to drive around the Baltic to do it.
Maybe it's for the view. All right, I got three.
Yeah, there's not much of a view up there either. It's cold. Oh. It's desolate. It's so up north. It's Arctic climate, or boreal climate. There is actually good like things up there, but if you want to watch like real Nordic good climate, you should go to the mountains because then we have the fjell, and that's where climate is. That's the view. That's the Scandinavian mountain line. That's cool. But just by the border, it's just like, oh, cool. It's a shitty coastline.
Okay. All right. I got 3 questions in a row that were like, what do you think about PewDiePie, and is PewDiePie popular in Sweden?
Oh, God. I don't like PewDiePie. I think PewDiePie is a bad person. Most people in Sweden, I think most Swedes kind of see PewDiePie as most people view PewDiePie. Like most people don't care about him. Some people like him, obviously, because he has subscribers, obviously. And some people hate him because some people do. I don't think Swedes have a very special relationship with Felix outside of being like, oh yeah, he's Swedish, isn't he? Sweden has a lot of like internationally famous people though, so like I don't think Felix stands out a lot.
Yeah, it's not like Canada where we have to latch on to every single Canadian celebrity we have. We make a really big deal because they're easily mistaken for Americans, and so we have to make sure that every single one of them and how not American they are, because that's the core of Canadian identity.
Yeah, that makes sense. Swedes don't. Yeah, we have so many though, so we don't care.
Yep. You have actual things and culture that is your own and not American. It's great. Some random geek wants to know, and I think this question is better just phrased this way. Why is Boris Johnson?
Why is Boris Johnson? Boris Johnson is because people like easy answers, and Boris Johnson is very good at delivering easy answers, even if they are not correct.
Do you know that he has like this weird obsession with Winston Churchill?
I'm not surprised.
He like wrote a book about it, Winston Churchill, and like has bought like a whole bunch of his like personal effects and stuff.
Oh God, that's weird.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about Boris Johnson. I know he was mayor of London for a while, and I know he might take over the Conservative Party, but I don't know enough about him to really say much about him. Why he is?
He's weird. He's a weird guy.
He's a very weird guy. He seems like he wants to be the Donald Trump of the UK.
He kind of looks like a discount Donald Trump. He looks like the Donald Trump if like the von Habsburgs got on hold of him for a few years. They'll never be forgiven for Carlos II and the horrible things they did to that child.
Oh no, yeah, that's poor child.
That's what is it called? That is genetic abuse.
Yes. Oh God, Carlos II. I remember I talked to an historian friend of mine, and we just had like an hour-long like laugh thing where we felt bad at the same time because we were mocking him so much. Yeah. This poor boy.
I should do a video about him. He's not. I feel like there's a lot to speak about in that, about how people had very different ideas of, or like about why inheritance is bad.
Yeah.
And why you should not marry nieces to uncles for several hundred years.
Yeah.
So this is from Thessal, again with the Cyrillic letters. What do you think about the declarations of the Mexican president who said that Spanish kingdoms should apologize to Mexico for the conquest of the Americas 400 years ago?
Interesting.
This happens a lot. Like in Mexico, in their museum, the last leader of the Aztecs was Montezuma II, and they have a replica of his headdress in the museum with a little plaque that says, like, this is a replica of Montezuma II's headdress because the actual one is in Spain, and we have asked for it back, and they refused.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that makes sense. Do that. Spain, get on it.
It's just as easy as saying, I'm sorry, and also handing over 9% of your treasury because 9% of the Spanish treasury is made up of Aztec gold that was appropriated. So,
Yeah.
Just hand over 9% of your gold.
I mean, there's a part of me that's like, oh, there's historical things and ideologically there's like conflicts and like who does a thing belong to and yada, 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 yada. But just do it. Get it over with. Send back artifacts to where they originated. Send back the gold, and then no one can complain about it anymore. Like, even if you believe that the British Empire, for example, deserves all the fucking mummies, or like the Spanish Empire deserves the headdress of Moctezuma, then like even if you believe that, wouldn't you rather just have to take a short plane trip or like a boat trip to actually view the things though, and just not to have people ask for it constantly? Like, no matter what the idea is, if you just do it, then no one has to argue about it anymore.
There's a curator at the British Museum who's right now adjusting his collar nervously about this conversation.
Oh yeah. I'm like, it's not the Royal Library, but it's a very, very fancy library where I live because it's a university town. We have a bunch of war loot from Poland. That we stole, that we should probably give back.
Well, yeah, I mean,
we went to Poland a lot to conquer it.
I mean, what's a little Viking between friends?
This isn't just Viking. This is like Swedish Empire things.
Oh, okay.
We went to the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and just decided to, they should be Swedish now. All of it. Just put our own. Just the old king doesn't work. Just put our own king on it. And thus began the decline of that part of Europe, unfortunately. Not the decline of that part of Europe, but like that's when the power became so unstable that like Sweden came in, took a bit, and then power became so unstable in that region that Russia, Prussia, Austria, like the Ottoman Empire, they all just decided to, oh cool.
Poor Poland.
Conquered it.
Poor Poland.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. You're sorry. Official apology.
I'm personally sorry for going to Poland and deposing your monarch.
Someone asked if you love IKEA. We already established the answer is yes.
I love IKEA, yes.
Can the EU just not be a national bureaucratic nightmare as well? I guess yes.
Yes, definitely. If you want to have if you ever want to understand why some people are Eurosceptic, go to the European Union website.
Oh man, yeah.
Just do it, and you will see why some people are Eurosceptics.
Mm-hmm. Nicholas Cristolau, I'm confused. Are Nazballs basically Nazi tankies? Yeah,
yes.
Kinda.
Yeah, pretty much.
What does Mia think? This is from Janaria Shah again. What does Mia think of Sabaton?
I don't like it.
What's
bunch of Nazis in the community, but also like I don't like the music. So I don't actually like black metal. I'm a bad Swede.
Hmm.
I listen to like jazz.
Oh my!
I know.
Not even a little bit of black metal.
Not a bit of it.
Oh boy!
I like the kind of like I like the closest thing I have is like neo folk, or like when people play like medieval instruments in a kind of hard rocky way. That I like. But like if someone goes to like that, I never get that. I don't like that at all. I'm a bad Swede.
I remember somebody said that's actually death metal, because death metal is the one, or black metal is the one where they sound like they're choking, and death metal is the one where they sound like they're Cookie Monster.
Ah, okay. Well, I don't like any of them, so.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Do you ever get any questions about Denmark? We already got one. Sure. 255 AD wants to know, does Sweden have any of those really nice prisons where it's like living in a budget hotel?
Yes, all of them are.
Awesome.
Pretty much all of them are, actually. Yeah. I mean, there are some high security ones that are pretty shit, but most of them are like, Sweden has a very like reform-based prison system, and it's pretty okay. There's a story of some. There was a time in a prison block where the guard forgot to lock the door, so the prisoners decided to go into the communal kitchen and make a pie, a chocolate cake, specifically, and watch TV and play cards because the guard forgot to lock the door. And they didn't escape. They just like, let's make some chocolate cake.
Yeah, I think I remember watching a documentary where someone went to one of those prisons, and they're like, there was like a lake there, and they were like, if you swam across this very small lake, you'd be running to freedom. And it's like, do anything, but nobody does it, so who cares?
Yeah, no one does it. There's a documentary. It's a bad documentary that's called Sweden, Heaven or Hell. Sweden, Heaven, and Hell. And it's a really, really weird documentary that's made by like an Italian ultra conservative who wants to like, Sweden is bad, degenerate, full of liberals and communists, and it's all bad here. And it goes to like a Swedish reform prison thing where you can do, if you want to, you can like go into the woods and chop trees if you want to, but like you can do whatever you want really. It's a summer retreat, basically a summer camp. And they pitch it in this way, like, drunk drivers in Sweden are sentenced to forced labor in the forests. Like,
oh jeez.
Okay, if that's the way you want to interpret it, sure.
One person wanted to know if we knew anything about Australian politics, and the answer is, to me, no.
No, not really.
I know that they have really bad conservatives, and they have literal concentration camps, but I don't know much about their politics.
Yes, I know that too.
Another question about so we've talked about PewDiePie. We haven't talked about the other great Swedish YouTuber, the golden son of Europe type.
Yes, my boyfriend.
Oh god.
The golden one. My spouse of Mother Europa.
Oh god. I think he's like self-parody at this point.
I used to be. I've gone from loving him because he is a living meme to hating him because he's a literal Nazi to loving him again because he's a living meme. Like, I don't know how to feel about him.
Yeah,
I kind of want. Okay, so some people compare me to ContraPoint because I'm a trans woman, and people do that. Like, we're both trans women and we both talk about politics. Clearly, we're the same person. Anyway. I kind of want to meet the golden one because ContraPoints has been like talking like every now and then about the golden one as a very attractive person, and I kind of want to meet the golden one, and I kind of want to have sex with him so that I can like cuck ContraPoints.
Oh god. You are playing with matches there.
I am, but also I think he lives within walking distance from me. If I really dedicated myself, I could probably like get him on this stream if I really, really dedicated myself to it. I won't. I don't really want to. I don't want him to know where I live, but
that would be dangerous, especially with his audience.
Yes, but I could do it.
Mm-hmm. But this is a question about another famous Swede who is also on the internet. You guys are batting 1,000 with these. And this is about the wonderful, very normal creator of Minecraft.
Oh, yes, Marcus Persson.
Is Notch actually a Nazi, and how do people view him and Minecraft? I assume in Sweden.
We view Minecraft as a very like nice Swedish, a very like stereotypically Swedish export. Like there's this idea that only Swedes could have made Minecraft. Like
it's the Playmobil of video games.
Yeah, and it's like this idea that it's a very Swedish thing to do that for some reason. We don't really think about Notch, to be fair. We don't think about him that much. He's not important here at all. No one cares about him. We care more about Minecraft and the product that he made, because that is like a very cultural export. But Notch himself, like the people who do think about him think him in a way that he is like shameful.
Yeah. We don't talk about Notch.
We don't really do that. Like he's not important. No one cares about him.
Mm-hmm.
But is he a Nazi? I mean, I don't want to say that he is a Nazi, but he is, like he does promote very like extremist views. And like I'm a trans woman, in case you didn't know, because I've said it like 15 times already. It concerns me personally greatly when he goes on like these rants about how he thinks gender works, and the implications that of the things that he says are, because the implication that like the only way to actually do the things that he like claims to believe in and wants to do is by adopting extremist ideological positions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying he's a Nazi. I'm saying that it's like the differences are.
He's fewer steps from it than you are.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm interested in that whole like Minecraft being quintessentially Swedish, because I do remember that when I was a little kid, my mom really got into buying those, like I said, those Playmobiles. I don't know if that might be a bit arcane now, but they're like these really expensive plastic toys from Sweden that were like really strange looking.
Yeah. No, I know they're.
I'm wondering what that means. What like if that is there like some explanation of that quintessential Swedish? Because also like Lego is Danish and like all that kind of.
I think there's this idea that Sweden had. I think there's an idea about like all the Nordic countries that we are this very like soft, quirky type of industry, or a quirky and the quirky, colorful, poppy thing of innovation. So all the inventions that come out of the Nordic countries have this like this quirkiness to them. They're like this like the niche things that kind of like work for more things than you think that they should. So like the cheese grater and the freaking wheel, the ball bearings, for example. They're like very niche ideas that somehow have a lot more applications than you thought they do. Same thing with Minecraft and Spotify and Playmobil. Like I think there's this idea that Sweden and like a lot of the Nordic ideas are somehow very like innovation rich, and that's not completely without merit, because like the Scandinavian like economic environment and political environment has been like very tailored to promoting startups and promoting like these technological unicorns. So there's this idea that Sweden is like the Silicon Valley of Scandinavia, or the Silicon Valley of Europe, because we have like more startups than most other countries do, and plus we have the north of Sweden, where it's cold, so you can have data centers, and things like that. So there's this idea that the quintessential Swedish innovation is this quirky, poppy thing.
Never really heard about that. That's cool.
That's just my own impression, though. So don't take me at my word.
It's not the worst thing to be associated with.
It's true.
Yeah. How do we stop getting the two-party system over here in the USA? Ooh.
You need to massive reform your political system, abolish the Senate. You need to get rid of the first past the post system. What you need to do is that you need to have local elections be the part of the whole. So like you don't have a congressperson, you don't vote for a congressperson for your part of the city. What you do is you pass a vote, and like in your local thing, instead of a congressperson, there's like 100 people who are like a council, and the majority from that council can maybe form a small coalition, and then they have a representative from that area that goes into the National Assembly, like that goes into Congress. That's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way you can still vote for whatever party you want to, because maybe your congressperson doesn't get anything, but maybe like in your area you get like 20% of the vote, and maybe in the area next to it you get 20% of the vote. And maybe if your area is allotted, for example, 3 congresspeople, like 3 representatives, then you can have like one from the first coalition, and then one from the second coalition, and then one from the third. So, and if you have like more people, like for example that you have like like one party gets 66% of the vote and another party gets 30% of the vote, then you have like 2 congresspeople from one party and then one from the third. So that final third is still represented by the thing. But that doesn't happen in a first past the post system, and that doesn't happen in the Senate at all. So abolish the Senate and massively reform your entire thing. But then you need to do like constitutional, like local election thing, and I'm not super into that. But first past the post is the first easiest thing that you need to get rid of, and also abolish the Senate.
Yeah, it's just that simple.
I mean, how hard can it be, really?
Yeah.
Sweden abolished its Senate. We had a Senate. It was like the House of Lords in the UK. We just abolished it. We don't need it. Fuck it.
We've been trying to do that here.
We also took away the power from the king, which the UK hasn't done yet.
Oh man, yeah. We were actually trying to do that. We try to get rid of the Senate. We have 3 big parties that can form government, and one is like get rid of the Senate, one is make the Senate nonpartisan, the third is keep it the way it is. And then also there was a whole hullabaloo about going to popular proportional representation. That's it.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of stuck in a 2-party system too. All right. Why do all Swedes go on vacation to Spain?
It's warm.
Yep.
And we usually go to Spain in like the spring, because then it's just dark here, and it's not dark in Spain. So and we're both in the EU, so we can just go there. We don't need to have a visa or anything, so we just go.
Nice.
And it's warm, it's sunny, and we don't need a visa.
Perfect. How does Sweden pay for all their free stuff?
Taxes.
All right.
We have high taxes. It's not really that complicated. Like, a lot of people are worried about like a brain drain or a capital drain if taxes are high. But what Sweden has is like we have a high functioning infrastructure, and we have like other support services. So like you can like companies. That's the beauty of a mixed economy, right? Because we have like other things except just only profit. So like what in America, for example, if a tech company wants to earn a lot of money, then they're going to have to lay their own internet cables, they're going to have to like build their own infrastructure, they're going to have to build their own like facilities, pave own roads, build their own warehouses, everything, and that costs money, but they get to keep a lot of more money at the end of the day. But in Sweden, they don't have to do all that, because those things already exist. We already have high-speed internet. We already have like well-functioning trains for heavy industry and things like that. So companies choose to stay in Europe despite high taxes, or choose to stay in Sweden despite high taxes, because there already is a very like stable support system there. The profit margins don't have to be as wide while still making a lot of money, because the support system is already there and publicly funded.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that even if you can't afford to, for example, pave new roads as a company, you can still make a profit in Sweden. In America, for example, if you can't support your own infrastructure for your own company, then maybe you can't support the company at all anymore. And that because of that, you need a higher profit margin in America than you do in Sweden. So it's more sustainable business. So it's even better for capitalists here.
That socialist hellscape is better for capitalists. Okay.
I know. It's awful, isn't it?
And this question kind of relates to you being from a third world country. How does Sweden interact with NATO?
Oh, we don't really. We're not part of NATO, but we are we have like a deep military cooperation with NATO. But we are not part of NATO, and because there's this idea of Swedish neutrality, because Sweden has been neutral for about 200 years, ever since we stole Norway from Denmark. And then we lost it. But ever since we stole Norway from Denmark, we haven't been at war for over 200 years. And there's this idea of Swedish neutrality that we value a lot. It's not necessarily like Swedish sovereignty, because like we're still part of the EU, right? And that we don't consider that like a break to neutrality, because we have the idea that we have this idea that Sweden is supposed to be like militarily neutral. And there's this idea that if we join NATO, we can't be neutral anymore, because then we take a stand against Russia, we take a stand against like other like enemies of NATO. Sweden doesn't really have any enemies currently. I mean, we're always scared of Russia, but everyone is always scared of Russia, and Russia has bigger fish to fry than Sweden. So we're not in an acute system really. Mm-hmm. Like we're gonna be fine.
Then what side did Sweden take in the Finno-Korean hyperwar?
We were subjugated under the Finnish during that. So like we didn't really take a side really. We were like more massively conscripted into the Varagnian cyber soldier squadrons. Mm. I know this meme. You can't beat me with this meme.
Yeah, you've got it. You're way more on the top of the stuff than me.
No, but like so like that's also a reason why Sweden has embassies in North Korea, for example, and where Sweden is a very like diplomatic middle hand between America and North Korea and South Korea, and even sometimes South Korea and North Korea, depending on like how the relationship are. Because this is honestly the most funniest shit in the world. Okay, I'm sorry, this is a different topic. I'm ranting so much. So America thinks that Sweden is like a socialist communist hellscape, but here's the thing: so does North Korea.
What?
So yeah, we're their brothers. We're brothers in socialism. We are comrades.
Oh my!
There's this idea because they invite over Swedish, like they don't do that as much anymore. But like when Swedish was more socially democratic, they kept inviting people. They kept inviting Swedish politicians because comrades.
That's awesome.
in the socialist struggle.
Yeah, I was
also like why we can talk to North Korea, but we can also talk to like Western powers, and we can like negotiate things between them.
Yeah, I was making the third world reference because Sweden was very much non-aligned during the Cold War, and that's where the term third world comes from.
Yes, we are technically a third world country. Technically, we still are. We're not part of NATO.
Yep,
we are technically a third world nation. But we were neutral during World War I. We were neutral during World War II. Well, neutral. We let the Germans have their way with us, and as long as they promised not to invade.
There's those uniforms, man.
Yeah.
All right. Someone's like, N64 is good, baby. Tried going outside. All right. I was wondering, is ICE a fascist secret police?
Yes.
Sweet.
They meet all the definitions of authoritarian fascist secret police.
There you go.
Like if you want to compare them to the Gestapo, for example, the Gestapo is a more like extreme version that hits literally like every single box that you could even consider when you talk about a secret police. Mm-hmm. But ICE meets a lot of them. Not all of them. I'm not gonna lie. Like if your definition of secret police, fascist secret police, is literally every single definition of it that matches up with the Gestapo specifically, then sure, then it isn't. But there has to be a more general understanding of what fascist secret police means. And then within that understanding, ICE fits the definition. Like they operate without much oversight authority. They can arrest American citizens without charge. They can deport whoever they really want, and people keep dying in their care. And they're not really held accountable by anyone. Like,
yeah,
like if it sounds like a duck, it quacks like a duck. It's a fascist secret police.
Yeah. Another really important question. Serious time. Why does this extends to the entire of Scandinavia? Why does Sweden on the map look like a penis?
Well, Sweden specifically looks like a penis. Well, Finland looks like the balls. Well, I mean, you can't really include Norway because that's a fucked up penis. But Sweden specifically looks like a penis because that's how penises look like. And I live right at the dickhead.
Yep. Sweden came before penises, so really, why do penises look like Sweden? Is the question.
I don't think that's true. I think penises came before Sweden.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Well, the human one, anyway.
That's true. Well, maybe. How long has humanity existed? Which came first, the shape of Sweden as it is, or Homo sapiens?
Homo sapiens are about 1 million years old.
Yeah, so yeah, Homo sapiens probably came.
Yep.
Later.
Someone wants to know if I'll ever do an update on Syria. Maybe. It's starting to wind.
I made a video about Syria, so that applies to me too.
Right, cool.
I might do a video on an update on Syria. I made a video like a year ago about like how military interventions are almost always for the worst, and maybe we shouldn't do them because they always make things worse, even if we really, really want to, and even if we really, really think it would be for the best. It usually always becomes worse, and so we shouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what my point was then, and it is now too. So.
Yep. I mean, in protracted sense, the Syrian civil war is short term the fault of the invasion of Iraq, and long term the fault of the mandate system. So
yeah, it all comes back to the British, doesn't it?
It all comes back to the Sykes-Picot Agreement. I think I remember there's like this interview with ISIS, and there's like even ISIS, like they make a big deal about the Sykes-Picot Agreement, and that's why they invaded the border and everything.
Yeah, that's literally like a large part of their foundational nationalism in ISIS ideology.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Here's another opinion on the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth.
You mean the Swedish puppet state? Yeah, I love them. I'm good servants to the empire.
This has come up a couple times. There's a meme happening right now, isn't there?
I have no idea, really. I don't know. I think the Polish, I don't know. It's a cool country, I guess.
It was neat that it existed.
Yeah.
All right. Was it big news in the rest of Scandinavia when Iceland banned circumcision? A lot of prominent atheists got excited when that happened.
Oh, I didn't even know that happened. So I would say no, it didn't really become big news because I had never heard of it. Good. I agree with it, but I didn't know it happened.
Yeah. It would be, that is like a thing that Iceland would do, though.
Yeah, it's very Icelandic to do, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Are there
they have a penis museum in Iceland, so I mean they very much cherish the penises.
Well, maybe they secretly came from Sweden. We don't know. Okay.
Possibly.
They were trying to make maps of home, and everyone just confused it over time. Ancient Icelandic cartographers making,
of home, stroking a petrified penis.
Yeah. Are there publicly funded metal bands?
Publicly funded metal bands in Sweden?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. There was a publicly funded. Well, no, never mind. No, I was wrong. There was a commercial, but that doesn't count.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Opinion on Victoria 2.
Good game. I like it. Horrific implications. And if my fans knew what the fuck I do in that game, they would cancel me immediately.
Yeah. Victoria 2.
Yeah.
Are you like me and got really, really angry when Imperator Rome is what was announced and not Victoria 3?
Oh yeah, I want Victoria 3 so bad. I want it so bad. Like a lot of people want Victoria 3. I don't know. I like working with tax brackets and tariffs and like industrializing with railways. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I want a nation built that way.
Yeah, I remembered I did a my one campaign where I let Quebec get independence in 1836, and Quebec became a world superpower by basically winning the race for Africa, scramble for Africa.
That's amazing.
And I think also occupied Oman. I think, it was kind of did like a just like stabbed in the middle there, and then kind of just kept going up. So if it had gone further, there would have been Quebecois India and stuff like that. So that would have been an interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game lets.
That's just how history is sometimes.
Yep. All right.
Well, I mean, Belgium took over all of the Congo, so I mean, who knows what the fuck can happen?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
it's true. I guess like Quebec took the place of Belgium in that situation.
I guess.
Yeah. All right. So, somebody just said sacrificing the Pope in CK2 remains my favorite pastime.
Yes.
Okay. Is Bernie Sanders a socialist, a democratic socialist, or a social democratic?
I would say that, like, oh God, like, okay. I know that there are Americans watching right now, and I know that most of my fans are Americans. I want to tell all Americans right now that you have no idea what the fuck socialism means. If Bernie Sanders was a Swedish politician, we would call him a liberal. We would call him like a center politician, maybe even center right. Like the entire American political system has shifted so far to the right that like even Bernie Sanders has to call himself a democratic socialist, even for promoting like just like very basic centrist ideas, like actual centrist ideas. Not like this centrist idea where it's like, oh yeah, like capitalism, like actual centrist ideas between socialism and capitalism. Like that's where the center is.
Mm-hmm.
And Bernie Sanders is an incredible centrist. Like he is a centrist. I think it's good though, because he's the most left that America has. But like, is he a democratic socialist or a social democrat? Like it doesn't matter really what terms that people use. Like from my perspective, he's a centrist, but he's the best you got. Like other centrists in America too. I don't want to give like a leaning to a specific politician, but like,
yeah,
turn back to the left.
It's part of it's a long tradition in America of having. They basically all of the keywords in political science have completely different meanings in America, and this just kind of follows up on that.
Yeah. I want to. There's a comment that I just saw that I kind of want to dig up because it's the topic. What is considered left wing by Swedish standard? Swedish standard. Left wing by Swedish standards means literally abolishing capitalism. That is what the left party has in their manifesto. Like they have as a long-term goal, abolish capitalism. That's something that they say. Like the long-term goal is actual like OG meaning of socialist. They want to like make Sweden a socialist country. That is what left wing means in Sweden. Left wing in America is like, we would call that right wing here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, good on you, America. You're catching up. You're what's it called? By that you'll get all the major institutions that people got in the 1950s, probably somewhere around the 2050s. So
yeah.
You're getting caught up.
You're a bit late to the party, but you'll get there.
Just watch. My this is another one of my conspiracy theories. America is going to get public healthcare service probably in the 2020s. And they are going to act as if they invented public healthcare.
Oh yeah, and they will.
They're going to talk about as if like it is the greatest American thing ever made, and that it's the symbol of why Americans are great. And I mean, it's going to be adorable.
It's going to be so cute. Like they're going to be so proud of it, and it's still going to not be good because it takes a while for that to get going. But they're going to be so like, they're going to be so happy. And here I am, pretty much free healthcare.
Yeah. Is it true that Sweden has a popular video game industry? I mean, we've talked so much about Paradox.
Yeah. Or like Sweden has Swedish video games are like a major export. It's literally a large part of the Swedish economy. Like the Swedish tech industry in general is huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, video games are big.
Nokia.
Swedes are gamers. What can I say?
Yeah. I mean, there's something quintessentially Swedish because, like, we were talking about Paradox, and it's like, oh, Paradox not only does like hardcore simulationist history games, but now they're releasing a Vampire the Masquerade game, and it's like, oh yeah, that's pretty Swedish.
Yeah.
They're covering their board games and their role playing games. All right, I'm gonna apologize for my in advance for my pronunciation of this because it involves letters that I don't think exist, but I know they do.
My letters.
So this is from Memeb77. Thoughts on Åland, where A has a circle over it.
Yeah, I know Åland. That's Åland.
Åland.
Åland is an autonomous area of Finland, but where everyone in Åland speaks Swedish, because in the Great Nordic War, or whatever it's called, when Sweden lost Finland, we also lost Åland, which was populated by Swedish people, and like a large part of Finland at the coastline, they also speak Swedish. So like Finland has a large Swedish minority. But Åland is like pure Swedish. Like they are there's not like there's a minor Finnish minority, and now there's a minor Russian minority too, because it was part of the Russian Empire for a long time. But for most of history, Åland was pure Swedish. But then it was ceded to Russia because it's basically a good naval base. And then in the 1900s, Sweden decided to like, hey, maybe we should go to war over that bit because everyone else is going to war over like small pieces of land with ethnic minorities in it. So maybe we should just take back our ethnic thing back into the majority. But the League of Nations decided that they should be autonomous, and then everyone should be happy. And then now they are. It's really funny though, because like all the political parties in Åland, because they are autonomous, are just like bizarro world versions of ones that exist here in Sweden, because they're Swedish, right? So they're more culturally connected to us than Finland. But they're like bizarro world. So like we have the moderate party in Sweden, and then we have like the Åland moderates in Åland, which are like, they don't have as much budget, so all the graphics are kind of like a bit more sloppy, and they don't have the same like membership number, so it's a bit different. It's bizarro world, but it's good. I like Åland. I have been there once, and I got very drunk.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. That's. I was just like on that note. Like, there's another Victoria II thing that's awesome is that they simulated that period where countries go to war over weird ethnic minorities with the global, with those like. What are they called? Like national crisis.
Yeah, I love those. That's a great mechanic, though. It's like, oh, people are angry in this town. What are we gonna do about it? World War, maybe.
Yeah, they're trying to simulate how World War I started, and it's great because they kind of overshot it, but they haven't fixed it yet. So basically, like by the time you get to the end
World War 7.
Yeah, you're up to like World War VIII by the time a regular Victoria II campaign's finished.
Oh, it's so good. We just keep breaking out over nothing.
Nope.
And if you're unlucky, that means like that the German Empire just stretches all over Europe, and it's like, oh no, what monster hath we created?
It's true. I do remember like in an Ottoman playthrough, I ended up in like a forever war against Britain because of Greece or something.
Yes, love fighting the Brits in that game.
Wasn't there a group of Croatian mercenaries that briefly occupied Stockholm?
Yes. Well, they didn't occupy Stockholm per se. Well, they could. Okay, occupying Stockholm, yes, but is that occupying Sweden? Not really. The Swedish capital, so to say, where the royal court was kind of split for a long period between Stockholm and Uppsala, where I live. So we have like a royal castle over there. Directions don't matter because I'm a two-dimensional screen, but it doesn't matter. So like where I am currently, that's where Queen Christina, for example, ruled. So it depended on like where the king decided to rule from. So occupying Stockholm, yes, they did that. But I don't think that falls under like the classical definition of occupying a country, military occupying a country. Like they went into a bar, they got a bit drunk, they decided that they owned the town for like a bit, and then we took it back. That's not really a military occupation of the entire country.
When did this happen?
No clue at all.
Oh, okay.
It could be last week. It could be 1,000 years ago. No clue at all for me.
Both of them.
I want to say 1608, but that's probably wrong.
Oh man,
I have no idea actually.
That's kind of like an example of like one of those things from history that we don't really appreciate as much. Where like even like 200 years ago, like countries had like 50 people in them, and so like
an army. Okay, the great heathen army that descended on England, that took over like massive parts of England. This massive invasion had maybe like 1,000 people in it. That's the great heathen army.
Yeah,
an army in the Middle Ages could be like 12 people. There's like 2 people with a bow, and the rest have an axe, and that's an army.
Yeah,
you can take over a city with that.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't appreciate it. Like 20 guys could take over a city.
There was this massive in Swedish culture. There's this big in Swedish history. There's this big thing where we were occupying. We were like sacking Eastern Europe, as we were always doing with the Swedish Empire. But the Swedish king got stuck literally in an inn in the Ottoman Empire. He got drunk because he lost a battle, and he like took refuge in an inn. And he stayed there for years, and the Ottomans had to siege the inn, like with cannons. After a while, they had to like bring in artillery pieces to like siege this bar that the king and his army had occupied.
Is there anything the Ottomans won't destroy with a cannon?
I mean, really, they love their cannons, really.
Yep. You know what? Ottoman strategy. If Trump ever builds himself a wall, the Ottomans have a strategy for walls.
Bring the caliphate back.
Yep. Have you ever been to Norway?
No, I've never been to Norway.
All right.
I grew up close to Norway, but I never been to Norway.
Okay. Is Estonia a Nordic country? Or why do
Estonia, they want to be a Nordic country. They are, like, if you want to talk like ethnicity, they are more connected to, like, in language and genetics to the Finns. So you could claim that they are Nordic, but they're not Scandinavian in that sense. But you could say that they are Nordic. They were also part of the Swedish Empire for a long time. So, like, in that sense, they're also, yeah. Also, one of my fans is saying that that's not how the siege went down. It was a small town, and they just hung out there for a while in exile. Well, they did hang out there for a while in exile, but the Ottomans wanted to get them out, and they said no, and that's basically an occupation, isn't it? I mean, if you're in a place and they say and you won't leave when people tell you to, you're occupying it.
Yeah, that's basic. That's the definition.
So yeah. I don't know enough about the Kalabalik, but yeah. Gosh,
I'm learning. See, like, I'm not really great on European history. I'm more of an Americanist, so I have learned so much in this like one stream. Okay, is it true that the Sami were the last people in Europe to stop being hunter-gatherers?
Well, I mean, that depends on your definition. The term hunter-gatherer has some implications to it. It has like these implications of being primitive. Like, they're not hunter-gatherers in the sense that, like, if you have a cabin in the woods and you go out hunting every now and then, are you a hunter-gatherer? Like, technically, that's basically what they do. Like, there are semi-nomadic people. Most of them aren't nomadic, and they keep to reindeer. That's what they do. They keep to reindeer, and they scatter. They go pick berries and things like that. But is that hunter-gatherer thing really? It's not really that. Really, some people still do that though. Like, so if stop being hunter-gatherer. It has like weird implications because some people still keep to reindeer. They still live in like the traditional hut thing, and they still do that. But like a large part of the Sami people, you know, they live lives as like most Swedes do, and they have their own parliament and they have their own thing. They don't have autonomy though, which we haven't given them for some reason, which is weird. They have a parliament but no autonomy. But
that's really cool. I did not. This is a group of people I did not know existed until.
Yeah, it's a big group. Someone in the comments also pointed out that they are connected to the Finnish and Estonian and Hungarian ethnic groups. So they are connected to it, but they are there's just it's this people.
Yeah.
And Sweden and Norway and Finland should be kinder to them, and Russia, because Russia also has some Sami people, but Russia has probably been the worst to them, unfortunately. Which sounds weird.
That's depressing.
I heard a quote, and I'm not sure if this is true because I am Swedish, and Swedish imperial rule over Finland was not always great, and as such I am biased because I was educated in Sweden, so my history education might be biased as well. But like I heard a quote from someone saying that some Finns say that the century under Russia was like the century of hell or something.
Oh god.
So like I don't want to be like the Swedish Empire was awful, but the Russian Empire has a finesse to cruelty and imperialism. They made it into a fucking art form. And yeesh.
I've seen Finland.
Also, I don't hate Finland. I love Finland. They're our brother people. They're the former part of the empire, and I love them.
Mm-hmm.
The brother people. We are the brothers in the north.
Yeah. Sir Zhao Zhao wanted to know who's the person I'm talking to. Is Mia Mulder. I'm going to link your channel again in the chat.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Mia Mulder. I'm a Swedish trans woman YouTuber, and I talk about history and ideology and trans issues sometimes. I'm pretty good. You should check out my channel and also subscribe to it.
Yeah, if you haven't done that, definitely get to it. We're getting close to the end of the stream, so you've got, if you want to just keep the Mia train going, there's like tons of videos to watch.
Mia gang.
Yeah, more. Who's okay? No, never mind. Someone thought I said Forrest Johnson when I said Boris Johnson. Thoughts on the revolutions of 1917 to 1923? Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, it's probably the revolutions in the old Russian Empire, when the Russian Empire split up into many different countries during the Bolshevik Revolution, because Finland broke away and then they had a civil war, and then like Poland broke away and had a civil war, and Estonia, Lithuania broke away, and then they had a civil war because like all of these countries also had communists in them, which also wanted to like join the new Soviet Republic that would succeed from the Russian Empire. I don't have a lot of thoughts on them. I think that like the revolutions contained a lot of bad people on all sides. When a lot of people talk about the Russian Revolution, and like when we talk about the Russian Revolution, the people who wanted to like support the Russian Empire were pretty bad guys. The Russian Empire were really fucking bad, and I'm including the provisional government in that because the provisional government wanted to keep the war going, and maybe the First World War wasn't a good thing to stay within.
Mm-hmm.
But like then we also have like in Finland, for example, where the communists lost, and they just massacred a lot of communists, and including their families, and that's also bad. So it's like, but then we also have like communists in other areas where they do the same thing to their losing side, depending on who won.
Yeah, I don't think I know quite enough about all the stuff that went down in Russia in that period, because like I just took one chapter and did the video on Nestor Makhno and what happened in Ukraine, and that like was a ton. So I got to get more. I got to do more in that. All right, we're gonna lightning round the last few.
Okay, I'm gonna stop ranting.
It's all good. It's all good. Whatever happened to the gold that Cortez and the conquistadors stole?
Some of it sunk, some of it is in Spain, and most of it was spent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably in Switzerland now.
Is Poland right wing?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the current leader of Sweden?
I like him. I think he's a bit too liberal, and he has bad opinions on immigration. I think he should be more open about letting people in. I want him to let more people in. But he has kind of conceded some points to right-wing talking points, and I don't like that. But I like him in general. He's a social democrat, and it's better than the alternative, I guess.
Yep. What do you think about all the neo-Nazis who adopt Norse paganism because they think Christianity is too Jewish?
Fuck them so much. God, I hate Nazis who literally take my culture, who use my heritage and my ancestry and my ancient mythology and use them for their own nazistic ends. Fuck them. I hate them so much. I want to reclaim Norse mythology so bad.
Yeah, we did a Lançon Meadow. There was a Lançon Meadow exhibit at the museum near where I live, and I was looking at all of it, and they had a rune stone, and they had some stuff like that. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of Nazi symbols on these things.
Yeah, we don't really. A lot of them we don't really consider Nazi symbols here in Sweden now because we have the rune stones. There's a rune stone in my local park. There are rune stones everywhere here. There's a Viking. There are 3 Viking mounds, a Viking distance up from here, and you can go there and drink mead. They serve it at our local restaurant out there. But because we have so many runestones here, we have hundreds of them. Most of them are worthless because it's just this is a farm. But they also contain a bunch of symbols. But because they're so common here and because they're so instantly connected to Vikings, we don't really. The Vikings have a hard time adopting them. Mm-hmm. They've succeeded in some runes, but not a lot of runes are just we just consider them runes because that's how we grew up with them. We just learned that they are runes. Mm-hmm. An ancient alphabet.
Golden Pelt wants to know, what is it with big name internet Swedes being awful?
I don't know. I'm so sorry for my country. I hope that I can be the next big representative of Sweden, and I promise not to be as fucking weird like they are.
What you gotta do? I have a thought. Okay, you get popular enough, and then all you gotta do is win Eurovision.
Yes. Now we're talking.
Yeah. You just gotta think of the weirdest possible thing to do, and then do it, and that's how you win Eurovision. That's what I'm learning.
No. I'm Swedish. I can just show up, and I will just win half the time anyway.
Ha. All right. Does Sweden still put pipelines in the ground?
Pipelines.
I don't know what they mean by that.
Yeah, oil pipelines, maybe. I'm not sure.
What do you think about fellow Swedish YouTuber Angry Foreigner?
I hate him so much. Fuck him. I hate him.
All right. Maximilian wants to know what your opinion on Azure Scapegoat is.
Don't know who that is off the top of my head.
All right. I'm going to butcher another name of your wonderful language. How do the Swedish people feel about the death of Dag Hammarskjöld? Assassination or accident?
Assassination, clearly.
I don't know what that is.
Dag Hammarskjöld is this Swedish politician. I don't know enough about him, unfortunately.
All right.
But I know that people liked him. He was a major figure in the UN. But I don't know.
All right. Oh, by the way, Jake Anderson, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. All right. We're down to 4. What do you think about Jeremy Corbyn? Would he be on the left, a centrist, or in Scandinavia?
Jeremy Corbyn would probably be a social democrat in Sweden. He wants to do some actual left-wing ideas, nationalize the railways, which is more left-wing than our social democrats are doing. So he would be a left. If he was a Swedish politician, he would be on the left wing of the social democrats. I don't think he would belong to the left party, though. The left party are a bit more leftist. They actually want to abolish capitalism and private ownership. So, yeah.
Yeah. English-speaking people in English-speaking governments seem to have a lack of imagination in that sense. Dalton Jones, thank you very much for the super chat. Much appreciated. all right, does Sweden have clean technology, i.e. are like, does everyone drive electric cars and you guys use green energy or anything like that?
Not yet, but Sweden has like more clean energy than I think most countries do, but not enough. Like there's not yet anyway.
All right. Someone said Chairman Mia. Just wanted to point that one out. Was Queen Christina trans?
No.
All right.
Okay. This is a very sensitive topic for me, and I will. Okay. So LGBT historians, I haven't done research specifically on this, but LGBT historians generally agree that the ideas that she was trans are either based, like the source of it is based on a book called, I don't know what the fuck it's called. King Christina. Now, King Christina was crowned king of Sweden because that was the title of the Swedish monarch. Doesn't matter if it's a woman or not. That is the queen is the king, but everyone called her queen anyway because that she's a woman and that's what people did. But the official title was king. So some people said that. So some people, like a moron, wrote King Christina and based it on one diary quote that she identified as a man that said, "Oh, I wish that I don't see myself in other women. I wish that I could have the authority and the gravitas and the power of a man." That doesn't mean she identified as a man. That means she envied patriarchy. That means she saw the authority that male rulers had and the male advisors she had growing up, and saw that she didn't have that, and saw that she could have more power if she was a man. That doesn't mean she identified as a man. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people dismiss this, but then they during a smear campaign of her, they said that she was a hermaphrodite. The word at the time, like a political opponent called her hermaphrodite. So this combined with the quote is like, okay, hermaphrodite is a term not really used anymore. Like it's a term that has been mostly translated into like transvestite, which was later translated into transgender. But there's a long separation between those terms, where the term has transformed, which is important, but people don't care about that. And then they dug up her bones, and her bones are a bit like, because they wanted to know if she wasn't hermaphrodite, and her bones are kind of like a bit atypical for what you would expect of a woman of the time. So she might have been intersex, maybe, probably not, almost definitely not, but she might have been intersex. She was not trans.
Yeah, maybe.
I will. Plus, the term is also the term trans is also a modern term, and we shouldn't apply it to historical figures that we don't really know anything about. That wouldn't have used the term anyway. So even if she did identify as a man, she wouldn't have used the word trans or anything similar to it, because the way they view gender then is very different from how they view gender now.
Yeah, okay. Gender has changed quite a bit, and yeah.
We also view gender much more medicinally and biologically today than we did back then. It was more like an essence of the soul and something of the mind, that the mind was something else. It's a difficult topic, but the answer is no. Mm-hmm. No. Stop saying that she was. The LGBT history tour in my town says that she is, and I've written to them several times saying there is no historical basis to say that. There is nothing here. No, you're basing this on bad historical fact. There's no concrete source for your claims except from a book by a guy who also written about Nazi paganism and occultism, which also have very loose foundations in the historical basis on them.
Oh man, I feel like we have unleashed a monster that we need to definitely pick up on in a future frame.
Yeah, the answer, no.
All right, Janaria Shah, thank you so much for the Coronas. Much appreciated. You wanted she, I think she said her pronouns were she. Best Swedish king?
Charles the 12th.
Charles the 12th.
Because there's a drinking song that's called, poorly translated, it's called Charles the 12th had 100,000 men. And you sing that 3 times, and then you say, when he marched his way to a town, when he marched his way to Macadam, and then you sing it again, but then you say Charles the 12th had 100,000. You don't say the last word, and then you sing that 3 times, and then when he marched his way on the way to Macadam, and then Charles the 12th he had 100. You leave the new last word, and you keep going until you and your friends are just shouting, Charles the 12th, Charles the 12th, Charles the 12th, when he walked his way on the way to Macadam, and then you shout, Charles, Charles, Charles.
That is a perfect drinking song.
It's a great drinking song.
Very interactive. All right. Do you think Gustav V was bisexual?
No. Well, maybe. I don't know enough about him.
Okay. Ancestry question. How common is the surname last name Anderson in Sweden?
Not common. It's not as common as you think. It's more common by Swedish settlers in America. There's more common there. But like Anderson is like this. It sounds Swedish, and that's why people associate it with it. But it's not really it's not a very common name. Svensson is a lot more common than Anderson. But it still has the suffix of son, and because that is a very Nordic thing to do.
Yeah. All right. Last question. Was Elagabalus trans? I think this is a Roman emperor.
Oh, okay. So you know how I said that you need like actual basic like historical, like pretty conclusive historical basis if you're ever gonna assign a modern term to an historical figure, because you're not really supposed to do that. But this Roman emperor, I'm not sure if it was this one, but this Roman emperor, holy fucking shit. Now I have to preface this with most of this is probably political slander. Because if there's something that politicians like to do in the past and currently is to make shit up about their political opponents. But I choose to believe. But I have to say that most of it is probably historical slander. But this emperor wanted people to refer to them as a woman. Had wild orgies with men. Which is okay. If you want to assign that to that she is trans, it's slightly problematic because it assumes that if she is a she, is also straight, and because of that is like if you're attracted to men, that means you're a woman that has like slightly homophobic undertones, which kind of adds to the slander idea, right? Like she had wild orgies, but the thing that really clinches it, though, the thing that really like makes her, I say her because I choose to believe, like a fucking conspiracy theorist.
You've got that what's it called, the poster with the
I want to believe, but the thing that really clinches it, the thing that is odd, because political slander is usually very specific, and this is weird to have as political slander. There's a rumor that she like advocated for the empire, like the Roman Empire, the biggest empire that Europe has ever seen, outside of the Mongol, advocated for like the best physicians throughout the entire empire to basically give her like sexual reassignment surgery.
Oh my.
And she promised like these like literal tons of gold and wealth and like eternal paradise for the person who could do it. And that's a weird thing to have as slander, right? That's like if you're gonna make up slander, there are better things to say than, oh yeah, this person wants a vagina. That's a weird thing to say as political slander. So in context with everything else, it goes a bit weird. I'm also getting a person in the comments that says that they had lovers of both genders, which makes sense. Like I've heard the orgies with men, so that's where I'm taking from. This is very like loosely based on historical fact. It's a lot of conjecture. so to say.
This was a Roman Empire after all.
Yeah, it's the Roman Empire. But yeah, like someone in the comments saying that lots of Roman emperors got slandered, but she's the only one who is asked for sexual reassignment surgery. That's a weird thing to be slandered for. So why? So maybe it's true. And if it's true, if she wanted to be referred to as a woman, if she wanted to like be seen as the wife of like her lovers, like, okay, I think in this case maybe we can assign this term as transgender. Maybe. But that's the dream part of me. The historian part of me says we don't know. We shouldn't assign terms to historical figures that we don't have enough evidence for. Mm-hmm. So the professional answer is maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. And no one really knows. But the dream part of me is like, yes, because that means a trans woman has been emperor of the Roman Empire.
Which is the awesome. Also, like, just that's like, yeah, right in that line between being a good historian and a fun historian.
Yeah.
And sometimes wild speculation. The thing is, like, I don't know if many people know this kind of stuff when you're like doing history, but sometimes you get like almost no information that has to be extrapolated to make sense of like huge amounts of time and like a lot of people's personal details. And so there is a lot of wiggle room in some of these cases. I'm not exactly, I don't know how well Romans are written about. I imagine it's a lot more than like your typical period in history, but I know that like in the medievalists, like, you know, sometimes you'll have like a scrap of a piece of paper that has like 6 words on it, and that's all they have to really be the remnants of an entire civilization. And you have to like,
yeah. And like we can't really read too much into that outside of what it is. And even that we have to like, even if those 6 words on the scrap of paper are like really definitive, we need to also like think about like, well, who wrote it? Why did they write it? Like, is this true? Is this a story? Is this political slander? Like, even if something is really clear, it's not really clear.
Yeah, man, I feel like we've opened up, by the way, Jake Anderson, thank you for the super chat. We've opened a lot of interesting doors, so I think we need to get you back soon because people in the chat are really liking this.
Oh, I'll gladly be back. But if you want more long form content of me where I rant about a topic for about 40 minutes, you should go to my channel.
Yes.
And because you get more of me there.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the chat again, but please, while we are signing off, please restate all of the things that you do and all the places that people can find your awesome stuff.
Sure. My name is Mia Mulder. I am a Swedish based trans woman who does a bunch of things. I say trans woman, and I say the reason I mention it a lot is because it's important, so that you know, so that you understand. Okay. Plus, it's Trans Day of Visibility today, so I feel it's extra important. I am here and I am visible. Anyway, I do YouTube videos about politics, history, ideology. I like to think that I do mostly ideology, but to be fair, I talk about whatever I want to talk about. And I sometimes talk about trans issues, and I do 1 video per month, and I think they're pretty good. You should go subscribe to it. And if you want to have like more of the streaming content, you can also support me on Patreon, because if you do that on a certain level, you get access to Patreon Ask Me Anything streams, where what I do for 2 hours is this, basically. I just answer questions about anything. Yep.
All that plus I think you pour honey on your head in one video.
Yes, my video on anti-intellectualism, I pour honey on myself.
So all those things and more.
Syrup specifically, actually. It's vegan syrup.
Excellent. I'm trying to, I got to be baptized into bread tube through that at some point.
Yes.
All right.
So
well,
honey is still available, because honey is a lot more viscous than syrup. Syrup pours. Honey is chunky. So you can use that.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much, and have a great evening, afternoon, wherever you are.
Yeah. Have fun.